Thank you all for joining us for the town halls. As Stephanie said, I'm Scott Francis, the president of the ECU Alumni Association, and I'm happy to join the Joyner Library to bring you this opportunity. We're glad you've joined us, and I hope that everybody's staying safe, healthy, sane, and well. As we get started, and as Stephanie mentioned, there's a couple ground rules and format info. First things first is that we are recording this session so that our friends who couldn't be here can access it later. So please note that it will record both our screens and the chats. And we've muted all of your lines as we meet our featured guest. She will share some information, and following that, we'll have the chat open for questions from you all. So for your optimal viewing experience, you should select Speaker View, which can be found on the upper right-hand corner of your screen. Also, we ask that you keep those lines muted for the duration of the program. At any time, if you have a question, please go ahead and ask it in the chat by clicking the word bubble labeled chat in the user menu at the bottom of your screen. So I'm thankful in advance for your patience and understanding as we navigate the ins and outs of the technology. I started us off with a bang, so without further ado, we'll get started and say hello and throw it to Jan to begin our session. Again, thank you for joining us, and go Pirates. Jan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Scott, and thanks everybody for joining us today. I've been having fun clicking through to see who's participating live with us today, and thanks to you who have your cameras on. It's a joy to see you. And for those of you who don't have your cameras on, I can make out who most of you are, so thank you all again for joining us. I'm looking forward to your questions. We've had a lot submitted already. Stephanie got even more this morning, so we're going to get to those soon, and I'll be sharing information about our library, about recent changes, and about our plans. Before Stephanie gets started with the questions, though, I want to virtually introduce you to Mark Sanders, our Assistant Director for Public Services, with a short video clip in which he will discuss some of the ways we've supported students since March. And Stephanie's going to get that video started for us.
Hi, I'm Mark Sanders, an Assistant Director here at Joyner Library. I'd like to talk about several of the most important ways that the library has supported students remotely during these unprecedented past several months. One of the ways is by getting our materials into the hands of students, whether it's shipping by postal service or UPS, our books, or by scanning articles and sending them via email. Another way is to use our virtual reference service with librarians who are able to conduct research consultations and answer questions by email, by chat, or by phone. And then finally, our equipment loan program is putting hundreds of laptops into the hands of students in need for the entire semester. And the library also makes available Verizon hotspots, portable printers, and webcams. So until we can welcome our students back into the library, we do stand ready to support them any way we can. I'm here in one of my favorite and most popular areas of the library. It's our reading room located adjacent to the entrance. And in this area we have comfortable seating, Starbucks cafe, and some of the most recently published books. And it was made available by the generosity of donors like Ann Laliotis. So we thank you for your support, and we look forward to seeing you in the library.
All right, I hope everyone was able to view that video. Jan, thank you so much for introducing Mark and for sharing a little bit about the library. So we do have lots of questions that have come in from attendees, and if you're ready, we can just get started with a few of those.
Definitely.
Once again, I do just want to introduce myself. My name is Stephanie Bunt. I'm an advancement officer here at ECU with ECU Foundation. I have the great privilege of working with Jan Lewis at Joyner Library and all the staff there who really touch all corners of ECU's campus. So certainly they support our scholars, our faculty, researchers, and the broader community through their really enriching resources. And we're very fortunate to have Joyner Library on ECU's campus. It's an integral part of our university. I don't think you can work at an institution of higher education without an appreciation for the resources and the wonderful materials that a library provides. So Jan, one of the first questions that we have from attendees is what changes to access and physical changes have occurred in the library since last March and due to the pandemic?
Okay, thanks. Well, it was March 20th when we closed the library building. At that point, only some of our employees were able to come in, and they continued to work on site doing tasks that required interfacing with print materials, basically. So there were materials that we were able to scan and put online for classes to use, things that had been print reserves before. They still filled interlibrary loan requests, both borrowing and lending materials. We were one of the few libraries in North America, and really, I'm pretty sure in the world, to continue those services throughout the pandemic, and a lot of library directors and deans at other institutions have thanked me for the work that our staff continued to do during that time. Some of our folks from special collections were coming in regularly to answer research questions that needed consultations in our manuscript collections and so forth, and also scanning materials for those folks. Of course, we were really focused on health and safety of our employees and library users. So that's why we had to take the steps that we did to close the building at that point in time. But we were in great shape on March 20th to provide online resources and services to our students, faculty, and staff. As you know, everyone I'm sure on this call knows, ECU has been a leader in distance education for a number of years, and the library has supported those distance learners and everyone who wants 24/7 access to resources. So that was there at the beginning, but we definitely cleaned up, spruced up our virtual front door, and beefed up those services and hours of coverage for things like virtual reference. So I think that we were able to provide outstanding service to our ECU community during that time period. Now, as we went into the summer, our building ops staff came back into the building and got things ready for reopening in August. And I really need to thank them for the outstanding work that they did and the leadership they showed. They installed the plexiglass barriers themselves. They decided how, with some direction from Mark and me, how to rearrange furniture, what rooms to close and store some furniture in so that we could socially distance the chairs and tables and so forth that were remaining, so that we opened in August when fall classes started with social distancing measures in place and sanitation and so forth. So we were in good shape then. Of course, again, as I'm sure everybody knows, it didn't take long for ECU to pivot, about 3 weeks, I guess, to mostly online learning. And at that point, we stayed open, but we shortened our hours to what it had been when we opened initially when classes started. So we, at that point, were only open to ECU students, faculty, and staff. In September, I think it was, we decided that we could have visitors for our special collections. So, and that still stands. So if anyone wants to come use our special collections, you register online, you're met at the door for a specific time period, escorted up to 3rd floor where you can use those materials. So we've been really happy to do that because that was one need that was expressed by members of our community that weren't, you know, ECU students, faculty, or staff, that they really did want to come in and use those materials. So we were able to be able to do that. When classes start again in January, we're planning to expand our hours, and definitely hoping everything goes smoothly for the university and for our country at that point in time. I will mention here that last week I recorded a virtual tour, and that shows a lot of the physical changes in the building. And we're going to send you that link after the town hall today so that you can see some of those changes yourself.
Thank you, Jan, for talking about all the ways that you've adapted through many different iterations of openness as the semester kind of evolved. And I guess many of your library employees are still teleworking. So how have they moved into the virtual world when they're not able to work on site, and it sounds like you have a combination of on-site and teleworking, but how has that worked out that they're still serving students and faculty virtually?
Yeah, that's gone pretty smoothly. We let people take home the equipment that they needed. You know, some of us already had what we call work laptops that we were using at home, but anyone who needed one was able to get a laptop, any library employee from us, take it home. Some people needed to take printers home or second monitors, so we were able to work with that. If someone needed to take an office chair, you know, we made arrangements for that, so that we were trying to help people set up their, you know, their mini workspaces, whether it's in their kitchen or their bedroom or wherever. A lot of our behind the scenes work with acquisitions and cataloging, electronic records maintenance, human resources, accounting, you know, all that was going on just before. Sometimes people would come here and get work, like with some of the catalogers, take it home with them, and then bring it back again. So that has worked well. And again, I think a benefit for us at ECU that I know some of my colleagues at other institutions did not have was that we were allowed in the building the whole time. And that helped a lot in, you know, in terms of making all that workflow go smoothly. But I do especially want to recognize some of our folks who created new online instruction modules and tutorials and converted face-to-face instruction to a live online model. And they've really done exceptional work with that. And also the folks who make sure that our website is working and that there is continuous access for all those thousands of online journals and databases that we provide because of that importance of our virtual front door.
That's wonderful. Your staff has truly worked very hard to continue serving and been very fortunate as well to be able to continue some of those services. One question that's come in is about the exhibits and events that the library normally hosts. You know, Joyner Library is known for hosting all sorts of enriching events and experiences throughout the year. So how have you adapted during this time?
Yeah, thanks for asking that question. We miss having the events here for sure. We still do have a couple of exhibits up, and for several of those, we now have online components. So you can go to the library website and see our digital exhibits. A couple of the ones that are available now are the Freeman Vines Hanging Guitar exhibit, our Barbecue Capital of the World exhibit, Graduate Student Art Show, and First in the Family ECU's Centennial Oral History Project. There will be more virtual exhibits being added, so keep an eye on that page, please, so that you can see that. Now, our programs have moved online as well. A lot of our faculty and staff have expertise in areas that are related to librarianship sometimes, or that, you know, are their own research areas of interest. So some of the online programs that our employees have presented have been on school desegregation in Pitt County, the Ku Klux Klan in Eastern North Carolina in the mid-60s, treatment of women during the Holocaust, and using children's literature to discuss race and racism. And then we've sponsored events on genealogy and memoir writing. And the silver lining really has been that that attendance has been really good at these virtual events because people don't have to worry about parking, which is always a big concern for folks. They don't have to spend the extra time getting here and back again. And of course, for those folks that live quite a distance away, it probably wasn't an option anyway. So we've been happy about that, and also to see some of the engagement through chat and questions and answer periods. So those have been, you know, the upside, and something that we certainly hope we take with us past the pandemic, to have the online component to more of our events, and also to record them so that they can be viewed later.
Well, you're right. That's really a wonderful silver lining. It's not having to fight for campus parking. Although you do have that beautiful new parking deck next to the library now, so it is a little more convenient when we are able to reopen.
Definitely.
One of the questions that attendees submitted beforehand, they pointed out that we're kind of living in a historical period now. And so they were wondering, how is Joyner Library collecting materials about the pandemic and about everything that's going on outside of that other current event? How are you involved with that?
Yeah, our special collections folks are really leading those efforts. One is called Documenting COVID-19 in Eastern North Carolina. There have been a number of submissions to this online portal, and we invite everybody on the call to submit information. It can be photographs, personal reflections, stories, artwork, audio and visual files, anything that shows how people have been affected by the pandemic. And it is so important to do this contemporaneously, of course. That one started first, and now we're also working on a social justice community collection, which again will contain multiple formats. I don't think there's an online portal for that one yet, but you can contact Jennifer Daugherty, the North Carolina collection, if you're interested in contributing to that collection.
Wonderful, thank you. I do want to pause for just a moment and remind all of our attendees now that if you forgot to submit a question with registration or you thought of something else as we're going through the program this morning, you can use the chat feature here at the bottom of your screen to submit a question now. Another question that we've had are about some of the achievements of your employees that make you proud, and maybe you can talk a little bit about their work.
Yeah, you know, every day I'm amazed by the great work that people are doing and by their dedication. But there are a couple things that are a little bit out of the ordinary that I wanted to mention here today. One, it's a person who's actually on the call today, volunteered to be a contact tracer for the university. So she went through that training and works regularly to make sure that people are followed up with and so forth if they potentially were exposed to the virus. Another employee has made hundreds of masks, and she started doing this really early on in the pandemic when it was difficult to find them in stores or online. And so she made masks for everybody in the library who wanted them, for some of our families, and for other folks in the community. So it's remarkable. I wish we could get a picture of her with all of her masks. Our staff development, diversity, and stewardship committees have really stepped up during the pandemic by coordinating volunteer and philanthropic activities like collecting for the Purple Pantry and Turkey Palooza. They started a book club, and the first selection is How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram Kendi, and they arranged for an ALS Give Thanks program. So a really amazing show by them and others of creativity and leadership. I'm also really proud of the outreach work that our special collections team is doing with their blog posts on topics like the Remembering the Marshall University football team, on Pearl Harbor, those two of the most recent ones, and of the Black Lives Matter anti-racism resources list that's publicly available on our website.
Well, it sounds like everyone on the staff has been very active in work-related and other, just general wonderful activities. While we're talking a little bit about employees, Africa, who's our participant, has submitted a question about what non-technical soft skills are important for beginning librarians. I don't know if you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think it's probably the same ones that are important for just about any position these days. Communication skills, whether that's oral or written communication, interpersonal skills, what I call emotional IQ, being able to get along with other people and to see things from other people's points of view. I think those are probably the most important non-technical skills. At the library, though, one more I guess I would mention that fits in with those is really having the customer service orientation.
Thank you. We have another participant question, and this one is about budgets and the long-term consequences that we may have at Joyner Library due to cuts. I know that these are uncertain times for institutions across the country, and ECU has made some budget cuts. So if you want to speak a little bit about how those reductions have impacted Joyner Library.
Okay, yeah, this is the serious segment of the program. In July, we had a 4.7% permanent cut that ECU determined would be made by cutting positions. We were at least fortunate that we had enough vacant positions to meet that cut, but that meant the permanent loss of 12 positions, meaning that our remaining staff are stretched thin. And we're planning for a 10% cut effective July 1, 2021. We're holding 8 vacant positions for that cut. That won't be enough. We will also be cutting our operating and collections budgets. And on top of that, the university has announced a budget reversion for the current year. We don't have the figure yet on how much ALS will need to contribute to that, but all those things, are very, very challenging for us, and our ongoing challenges to weigh competing priorities, trying to reallocate existing and diminishing state resources appropriately. The library is fortunate, though, that we do have some funds generated from endowments and private gifts, and those have been critical to be able to meet faculty and student needs. And so we thank everybody who has supported the library. And just real quickly, one last thing I should mention, because I think it's going to be on the news today, and I would be remiss if I didn't at least tell you something that you're probably going to hear later today. And that is that the library has not been affected by furloughs to this point, and no one at the library still is going to be affected that I know of except me. So top leadership at ECU, we're all taking 10-day furloughs between now and June 30th. But I don't want to panic anybody else. I know there are a number of library employees on this call. It's still no talk, to my knowledge, of furloughs for anybody except that senior leadership tier at ECU at the moment.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. It just really speaks to how these challenging times are impacting the university as a whole and Joyner Library. And I know that everyone here at ECU, the faculty and the staff and students, appreciate all the flexibility of yourself and other administrators in trying to work with budget cuts and make adjustments to still operate and provide valuable services to our university and the community. Despite these challenges, are there areas of the library that are growing that you're excited about or that you expect to grow?
Absolutely. Open access publishing is a growth area, and that is really a long-term change in how the scholarly literature is created and accessed. And our library is committed to be an active partner in this change, so that we want to support the new publishers that have chosen that model for their journals. There are several of them at ECU, and the library works on their publications already. Another way is by supporting open access publishing infrastructure nationally, so that this can all become more seamless and easier for both for the people that are creating them and those that are accessing them. Our special collections and our digital collections will definitely continue to grow. We've gotten a couple of new collections this year, and probably many of y'all have read about the planned gift that we will be getting more materials from particularly 18th century publishing at some point. That's a planned gift. In particular, we want to add materials for underrepresented populations to our special collections and our digital collections now, so that they better represent both our university and the surrounding community. Finally, I'll just mention that ECU has a new course management system called Canvas, and the library and integration into Canvas is going to grow, and that's a great opportunity for us to provide point of need instruction and research assistance to students. So those are a few of the areas that we'll see growth for sure.
Well, that's very exciting. And you've mentioned once or twice a few ways that philanthropy has helped out, both in terms of dollars for programs and resources, but also in terms of materials. So I don't know if you want to talk just a little bit more about that, and for those who may not be familiar with the gift of the books that you referenced.
Well, the specific one I referenced is a person in the Atlanta area who's been a book collector for a number of years and has decided that ECU is going to be the home for those books eventually. And we worked with University Advancement very closely to look at those books and make sure that they were going to be great additions to our collection, because we don't have unlimited space and so forth, and to work with the donor to reassure him that we have the facilities and the capability of caring for those materials appropriately. And then he, as an additional generous step, has made plans for a financial gift that will help us preserve and provide access to them. So that is really an important part in many cases of what we call gift in kinds, of gift in materials that can come and enrich our collections, and and that we will take care of in perpetuity for researchers to use. Another one that is a gift in process right now is from a retired nursing professor from UNC Chapel Hill, who lives in Chapel Hill, and her father collected children's illustrations, and it's a really fun, interesting collection that I think is for children's literature, for art, for communications, and so forth. It's going to help a number of programs. So we've gotten the first 3 installments of her gift, but it's going to be a multi-year gift. And it's covers of magazines, children's books, posters, figurines, lots of different formats that are included in this collection. We've got several regular donors to our music collection, and one major gift made a few years ago was from Tom and then Francis Mallison for the Tom the Jazz Man collection of LPs and CDs, and it's been an amazing enrichment for that collection. And it wasn't just jazz. His collection covered many different genres of music. So again, that kind of generosity is remarkable, and we definitely appreciate it.
Thank you. It's so great to hear about the different resources that are available through your partnership, through Joyner Library's partnership with individuals and alumni and friends who have contributed materials over time. One of the questions we received is a little bit of a detour here, but what is your favorite location inside the library? And especially for those who are missing being back in the library, maybe you can share.
Well, I do like my office, but I'll pick something other than my office, I guess. I think it's probably the Janice Hardison Faulkner Gallery, because it is where we hold most of our events, our largest exhibits. It's also really popular with students, so I can just walk out of my office and see what students are up to, and also in the study rooms that are adjacent to it. Also, I think because it's the first major renovation project that I was in charge of when I became an interim dean. My predecessor, Larry Boyer, had the idea and got the beginnings of it underway, but left me with a whole lot of fundraising to do and a lot of design work and a lot of growth in what was originally anticipated. So it's just been wonderful to see how well it's turned out, how much it's used, and how the enjoyment people get from being in the space.
Thank you. Another question from a participant today, Anne asked, what are some of the positives from challenging times that you have found happening because of COVID environment in Joyner among yourself, your staff, and also your students?
A professional group that I'm actually president of right now asked a similar question, and I threw it out there for some of my direct reports to think about as well. And one of the things that came up was kind of just that reinforcement for leadership folks, you know, for assistant directors, me, whatever, to remember how important it is to check in with people, you know, to make sure that everyone knows that they're valued and that you care about them and how they're doing, how their family's doing, before you care about how much work they accomplished, you know, that week. And I think that hearing another person in my library say that and knowing that it's, you know, it's been incorporated is really meaningful for me. And you know, so I think that even though here in my own department in admin, I'd still rather be in the room with people. I think that still having the check-in meetings, which a lot of our departments are having more frequently than they used to, and being able to you know, kind of simulate the in-office experience through Teams or Zoom or whatever, has been helpful, you know, and in fact, some of our meetings and events are better attended now than they were when it was a face-to-face meeting. So again, we'll probably continue offering that option. So I think we've learned that the value of multiple options, and that makes things really more inclusive and can increase participation. And some people that aren't comfortable speaking up and in that meeting session will probably use the chat function to raise a point. So again, it helps with that participation. Everybody that I've talked to enjoys the flexibility of working from home at least part of the time. You know, it saves time. And now with winter coming on, if it's icy or whatever, you know, we can still just stay home and work and not have to worry about adverse weather leave and all those kinds of things. So I think that has definitely been a plus. And I think that again, from the supervisor role, not just speaking for myself, but for the supervisors within the library, that people are going to feel more comfortable with telework arrangements going forward as well.
All right, so thank you, Anne. That was, you know, good to think about some of the really positives that have come out of this challenging time. I know that we have a lot of loyal Joyner Library friends and donors on the call. Are there any specific projects that are underway or upcoming that you want to provide any updates about to your library patrons?
Yeah, a number of people donated to the Mosley Map conservation effort. So I just want to give you an update on that. What we colloquially call the Mosley Map is more properly called a new and correct map of the province of North Carolina. And it was created by Surveyor General Edward Mosley and printed in 1733. We sent it to the Northeast Document Conservation Center in Massachusetts last January. It was not supposed to take 11 and a half months, but it did because they were not able to work part of that time during the pandemic. But it should be on a truck coming back to Greenville in a week or so. So we expect to get it back here before we close for the holidays, and looking forward to uncrating it and seeing the work that was done on it. And our own conservator, the very talented Larry Houston, he's done presentations on the Mosley Map for a number of groups in Eastern North Carolina in the past. And once he's had some time to reacquaint himself with the map and the changes that have been made to it, he's going to incorporate information about the conservation work that was done into his presentation. And we'll go, I'll say back on the road, but could be back on Zoom, to meet with groups through, you know, that are interested in hearing about both the map, how it was created, and now also how it has been conserved. And I will put in a plug for our friends at the library right here. They're selling copies of that Mosley map and the Mozone map and a couple of watercolor prints by Bob Pittman. They're beautiful as well. You can order by December 11th to have them shipped in time for the holidays. Other things that we're working on, that our year in review, we're not doing the, the 15 to 20 page publication this year, but it's going to be a great online publication, and you'll get an email link for that when it's ready. A number of our donors have also contributed in the past to our textbook affordability program and to our student equipment loan program. And that was our first crowdsourcing effort. So both of those are growing and are incredibly important. We're doing longer term equipment loans, and we've expanded what we're loaning. So there are about 25 different categories of equipment that are loaned. Probably the ones that are most different now are, we've got a lot of MiFis. So for people that need that mobile Wi-Fi to get their work done from home, they can borrow that from the library for a semester. And we've gotten a lot more laptops to loan out as well to make sure that students can get their work done. Also cameras, because a lot of times those are actually needed for exam proctoring. So we've been working really closely with Wendy Creasy and others in academic affairs to make sure that we're helping support students get the equipment that is needed to complete their coursework. We never have enough, even the calculators when we get back, for loaning those out, the cameras, projectors, screens, and so on. Textbook affordability program grows every year. It's really got several different components. The faculty component, where we award $1,000 to faculty members who want to switch their textbooks from the traditional commercially published ones to use materials that are free or very low cost to their students, which could be our library subscription resources or open textbooks that already exist, or they might put together their own packet of materials or create their own textbook. So that's been going on for a number of years, and as long as the faculty keep teaching those same courses, they can keep improving and adding to what they've already created. We have a course adopted textbook program where, when it's possible, we purchase or license the ebook version of a textbook, or more often the supplemental readings, for a course, and then an unlimited number of students can access it at the same time. And then we also have a print reserve textbook collection that we would like to expand to include more courses. Right now it's about, I think, 25 of the highest enrollment courses. So those are some of the ways that people can continue to support us and student success through textbook affordability program, equipment loan, and then also through supporting our acquisition of streaming media, because it really adds up for students if they have to get subscriptions to 5 different services to get the videos. Some of our courses actually, are that's what the curriculum basically is watching, analyzing, critiquing, learning from the films. So that's another area that we've expanded greatly in recently.
Thank you so much for talking about all of those ways that you're supporting students and that alumni and donors can get involved in helping the library continue to serve. I think a lot of times we take for granted that students will just have the materials and the tools and all of the equipment that they need, but you've really pointed out ways that the library is a critical link in them continuing their education, especially remotely. So thank you. Where can people go to find information or more information about what you've mentioned?
Pretty sure it's library.ecu.edu/giving. Okay, Heather's giving me the thumbs up, so I got that URL right. Good.
All right, and we can include a link in that to our follow-up email with everyone, just in case they are in the giving spirit and would like to help out, because obviously there's such a great need. Also, just a personal question, where can I find information about some of those items that the friends were selling? You mentioned some art prints and the map. I have some holiday shopping to wrap up, so.
Yeah, it's right now, it's on our library website, so you can just look for the banner and click on it, and that will take you to the page where you can get more information and order. And then on that library homepage, there are links to giving, and that will also get you to information about the page I talked about, and also to our friends page. And I definitely want to recognize the friends for all the work that they've done to support the library over time, and also for members of our advancement council who are wonderful supporters as well. So their support is critical, as is all the support of all of our donors. We consider it like the margin of excellence that, you know, what y'all do to help us.
Well, we're coming up on the end of our program time, but I want to give everyone one last chance if you have any further questions. We've had some great ones come in so far, so thank you very much if you've submitted a question. Before we conclude today, or if you have any additional questions, you can put those in the chat. And of course, we will be following up with everyone with an email. We'll share a link to the virtual tour that Jan mentioned earlier. We'll also put some links to the various pages on the library website where you can contribute time, contribute your experiences as they're collecting information about the current event. And then I guess, Jan, do you have anything that we haven't touched on yet today that you'd like to share before we wrap up this morning?
Just want to thank you all for taking your time to participate in the town hall, and thank you for your questions. They were wonderful questions. And in addition to just looking at our website for our information, please feel free to call or email me at any time, lewisja@ecu.edu. And I'm going to go ahead and give you my cell number, 252-375-0479. So questions, suggestions, whatever you want to share with me, I welcome it. I want to thank you for your support. Truly look forward to seeing you in person in 2021, and hope everyone stays safe and well in the meantime.
All right, well, thank you. Just to echo what Jan said, thank you for your questions. Thank you for all the ways that everyone on the call has been engaged in supporting, and please do reach out to Jan or to me or to anyone here if we can help you explore more ways that you'd like to support the library. Or if you have follow-up questions about the Teaching Resource Center, or the digital collections, or the music library, any of the wonderful areas that Joyner Library offers. And yeah, thank you so much for your time, and have a happy and healthy holiday season.